After I won my 999th consecutive case for the firm, my wife, a prominent attorney I had been married to in secret for years, finally agreed to hold a public wedding ceremony and announce our marriage. But as darkness fell, Catherine was nowhere to be found. Instead, I saw a post on my Instagram feed, a photo of her and her male assistant, Julian, sharing a passionate kiss in front of a wedding backdrop. The caption read, "Just got teased by colleagues for being a lonely bachelor, and then my favorite boss lady came to the rescue. By day, I'm her star employee. By night, she's my loving wife." In the photo, the wedding rings on their fingers were blinding. Everyone expected me to explode with rage, but I simply smiled and left a comment. "When are the kids coming? I'll be sure to send a massive gift for the baby's shower." Seconds later, Catherine, whose phone had been off all day, finally called. David, Julian's fiancé, skipped out on him the night before their wedding. His parents are old school and conservative. If this scandal got out, his father would literally disown him, maybe even kill him. I was just helping him out. As a lawyer, don't you have even an ounce of compassion? "Delete that comment right now," she continued, her voice sharp. Then, apologize to Julian personally. "Once he finds his fiancée and brings her back, I'll clarify everything and we'll have our wedding for real." I looked down at the divorce petition in my hand and let out a cold laugh. "There's no need, Catherine. Just wait for the server to hand you our divorce papers." There was a brief silence on the other end. When she spoke again, she sounded irritated. "David Miller, get a grip. I told you, the wedding with Julian was just for show. I promised we'd redo ours. Can't you just be patient? Do you really want to force me to humiliate him? To let everyone laugh at him for not being able to handle his woman? Do you want to watch him get destroyed by his family?" Standing at the courthouse entrance, I couldn't help but smirk at her self-righteousness. Catherine and I had eloped 7 years ago. We never had a ceremony, and we never went public. Back then, she had used every penny of our collective savings to start her firm. Money was tight. I didn't care that there was no fancy party or dowry. We lived like fugitives, hiding our marriage from our parents, hoping that once the firm grew, we'd finally have our moment. Through our joint efforts, Sterling and Associates grew. The client list expanded. The reputation soared. I had already picked out the venue and the tuxedo. I was ready whenever she was. But every time I brought it up, she had an endless supply of excuses. She needed just a little more time to stabilize the firm's position or to train the new associates. I waited for 7 years. Last week, after working through the night to win the firm's 999th case, Catherine finally ran out of excuses. She agreed to the wedding as a reward for my hard work. I spent the next week sleeping less than 4 hours a night, personally overseeing every detail. I was so excited I didn't sleep at all the night before. But on the day of, I waited until the guests trickled out in the dark, and Catherine never showed. I only saw the pitying looks from the few friends who stayed. If I hadn't stumbled across Julian Thorne's Instagram post, I'd still be in the dark. And yet, she had the nerve to say, "I lack patience." The truth was simple. She didn't want to marry me. She didn't want the world to know I was her husband. I wasn't going to be the submissive husband anymore. I snapped back. "Yeah, a wedding is just a formality. So why is it that when Julian sheds a few tears, you fly to his side, but after I wait 7 years, you can't find a single day for me? You didn't even bother to give me a fake excuse. You just ghosted me all day. Since we don't even feel the need to lie to each other anymore, why keep this marriage going?" Catherine went silent. She clearly hadn't expected me to tear down the veil of our relationship so bluntly. After a moment, she let out a long, weary sigh. "David, can you stop bringing up divorce every 5 minutes? I'm busy with the firm. I'm dealing with Julian's parents, and now I have to explain myself to you over and over. It's exhausting. You're part of this firm. You know how much time and money we invested in grooming Julian's cohort. I'm trying to build a legacy here so you and our future children can have a better life. Is that so wrong?" Here we go again. The lecture. The grand moral justifications. For 7 years, she played this game, acting as if she were the only one who was right, doing everything for my sake while demanding my total compliance. But no amount of talk could hide Julian's incompetence. Despite being Catherine's hand-picked assistant, Julian's legal skills were non-existent. He barely knew the basics and had offended countless clients. Any other junior associate who made a typo or a vague legal argument would have been fired on the spot. But with Julian, there were no consequences. Catherine was always gentle, never raising her voice, claiming he was just a fresh grad finding his rhythm. She seemed to forget that Julian was in his second year. He wasn't a newbie anymore. Her favoritism had long since crossed professional boundaries. When Julian posted about their wedding, no one at the firm was surprised. They were all in the comments, joking about how they'd seen the sparks flying for months. "You're right," I said coldly. "The mistake wasn't yours. It was mine." On the other end, Catherine sounded relieved, thinking she'd won again. "That's better. I'm glad you've realized your mistake, David. As long as you—" "Catherine," I interrupted. "Do you know what my biggest mistake was? It was 7 years ago, ignoring my family's warnings and secretly marrying you. By the way, my divorce petition has been filed. I'll see you in court tomorrow." I hung up before she could respond. I went to text her the electronic notification of the hearing, but a red exclamation point popped up. She had blocked me. I wasn't surprised. For the last 7 years, whenever I didn't play by her rules, she'd cut off contact, change the house codes, or freeze my accounts. It was a game of emotional chicken designed to make me crawl back and apologize. But I was done playing her games. I was done with her. I was about to put my phone away when a notification popped up from the firm's client WhatsApp group. Julian had tagged me. The group, usually quiet at this hour, exploded with messages. "David, I know Catherine is amazing, and you've worked with her for years. I don't blame you for falling for her, but we just got married. You can't keep messaging her and threatening to take her clients away to force her to leave me. If my presence bothers you that much, I'll leave the firm. Just please give the firm a chance to survive and don't try to steal my wife, okay?" At David Miller. The floodgates opened. I feel so bad for Julian. He just started a family, and he's already being harassed by some bitter old lawyer. I never knew David was like this. He always seemed so professional, but he's actually a homewrecker. At David Miller, stop hiding and face us. You're a third-wheel creep. You shouldn't even be practicing law. At Catherine Sterling, if you don't kick this guy out of the firm, I'm taking my business elsewhere. I won't work with a firm that employs people like him. The chat was a vitriolic mess of hundreds of people calling for my head. Julian, the architect of the lie, had hidden behind his screen, playing the victim. I laughed at the sheer audacity of it. He had stolen my wedding and ruined my marriage, yet he was framing me as the one threatening the firm's stability. What surprised me more was Catherine's response. She never posted in that group. But now, she replied publicly, "What my husband said is true. I apologize for the drama, everyone. Rest assured, there is no romantic or inappropriate relationship between myself and David Miller. To protect the firm's reputation, I am starting the termination process for David Miller, effective immediately." Watching her lie so effortlessly in the group chat was almost impressive. Perhaps Catherine had forgotten that she used to be an attorney who loathed deception. In the early days of Sterling and Associates, a client offered her a $3 million retainer to handle a divorce case. But after investigating, Catherine discovered the client was hiding assets and intended to flee the country with a lover. She dropped the case immediately, risking a total industry blackballing. She had a soft spot for victims of betrayal because her own father had abandoned her and her mother for another woman. Back then, she had cried in my arms, apologizing for not being able to provide a better life for me yet. But Julian had only been around for a year, and she had already become the very person she used to hate. Love really did have a magical way of turning a person of integrity into a hollow shell who would ignore slander right in front of her eyes. However, as the firm's top litigator, I wasn't exactly a defenseless lamb. I uploaded the recording of my call with Catherine directly into the group chat. "David, I told you the wedding with Julian was just for show. Do you really want to force me to humiliate him? To let everyone laugh at him for not being able to handle his woman? Do you want to watch him get destroyed by his family?" The chat went dead instantly. Catherine clearly hadn't expected me to record our private conversations. After a moment of stunned silence, the tide turned. Clients began tagging Catherine and Julian, demanding an explanation. I didn't stick around to watch. I left the group and muted my phone. Let them clean up the mess they made. The next day, I arrived at the courthouse for the hearing. Catherine, the defendant, was nowhere to be found. The court clerk called her several times, but she didn't pick up. Just as the judge was about to rule in my favor due to her absence, my phone buzzed. It was Catherine. I answered and put it on speaker as requested by the clerk. Her voice was a scream of pure rage. "David Miller, have you had enough? You posted that recording, and now Julian is being cyberbullied. He's in a hospital with a nervous breakdown. And now you're hiring actors to call me pretending to be court officials? Julian is so guilt-ridden he's talking about jumping off the roof to make it right. Do you want him dead? Is that what it takes to satisfy you?" I realized then that she hadn't ignored the court's calls. She honestly thought the divorce proceeding was a prank I was pulling for attention. "Julian lied about me, and you say it's my fault? I countered. Now his lies have backfired, and it's still my fault? Let me tell you one last time. This hearing is real. If you— Enough, she snapped. I don't have time for your games. Julian's wife left him. He's being attacked online, and he's not fit to work. You need to get down here and handle his caseload. And there's a client dinner tonight. Make sure you drink with them and keep them happy. If you do a good enough job, I might overlook your little tantrum and let you keep your job at the firm. I laughed. She sounded like a queen issuing a decree. She seemed to forget that I wasn't the only one getting attacked in that chat. Being a lawyer means taking heat. I've been assaulted by a plaintiff's family before after winning a defense case. I'd had red paint thrown on me. My parents back in Ohio had even been harassed online because of my work. Back then, I was a wreck. Catherine hadn't comforted me. She told me I was being too emotional and thin-skinned. She said if I couldn't handle the pressure, I should find a new career. I believed her PUA tactics back then. I'd worked harder, smiled through the insults, and told myself to be stronger. But now, because Julian got his feelings hurt in a WhatsApp group, Catherine was treating it like a national tragedy. She gave him paid leave and expected me to do his work. More importantly, she knew I'd just had stomach surgery after years of overwork. I was still in recovery, yet she wanted me to go out and do heavy drinking for clients. There were a dozen other male associates she could have sent, but she chose me, the one who couldn't drink. I was just a tool to her. My body and my feelings didn't matter. Catherine, I just had surgery. I can't drink, I said firmly, and Julian's work is his own. I'm not responsible for it. Silence. She wasn't used to her workhorse talking back. Then she exploded. David, I'm telling you, not asking you. I pay your salary, which means you follow my orders. Fine, he replied. I quit, and I'm not asking you. I'm telling you. I hung up. The judge, having heard enough of the prank, defense, and the reality of the situation, proceeded. With the evidence of her absence and the clear breakdown of the marriage, the decree was granted. As I walked out with my divorce papers, I dialed an international number. Ms. Vance, I'm ready to accept your offer. Really? David, that's wonderful news. Helena Vance's British accent was thick with excitement. Helena was an opposing counsel I'd met during a cross-border litigation. I noticed a flaw in the evidence her client had provided her. It looked forged. I told her during a recess. Instead of being suspicious, she investigated, found the fraud, and dropped the client, saving her firm's reputation. Since then, she'd been headhunting me, offering a partner position at her firm in London with a 7-figure base salary. At the time, I was still under Catherine's spell, believing in the future she was building for us. I turned Helena down to stay with my family. Helena had told me the door was always open. Looking back, I was an idiot. I'd traded my prime years and my health for a woman who wouldn't even let me be her husband in public. I sent my formal resignation to Catherine via the firm's HR portal. Surprisingly, Catherine, who usually took 24 hours to reply to anything, approved it within seconds. I was confused until a notification showed she'd just posted her Instagram story. It was a photo of her and Julian at a karaoke bar. They were holding hands, and she was feeding him fruit. I smirked. She approved my resignation so fast because she was too busy on a date to notice what she was clicking accept on. Catherine was usually so professional and private. She never posted about our anniversaries. She'd even photoshopped me out of the background of firm photos, as if my very existence was an embarrassment. Now, she had posted a 9-photo carousel. In the comments, Julian was marking his territory. Just wanted to sing my heart out, and my gorgeous wife canceled a 6-figure client meeting just to be here with me. Where do you find a woman like this? I looked at the sickly Julian in the photo. He looked perfectly healthy. And Catherine? She hated karaoke. Her father had met the woman he cheated with at a karaoke bar. She'd spent her life avoiding those places. She turned down million-dollar clients if they suggested a KTV venue. But for Julian, she conquered her trauma. I knew she wanted me to see this. She wanted me to be jealous, to come crawling back and apologize for my disobedience. She miscalculated. I didn't call her. Instead, I called my best friend, Mike Peterson. Mike, drinks are on me tonight. Bring whoever you want. Late that night, in a private booth at a high-end lounge, Mike looked at his watch nervously. David, you haven't checked in with Catherine for 3 hours. Aren't you worried she'll flip? I laughed at myself. When we first started dating in college, Catherine told me she had abandonment issues. She asked me to report my whereabouts every hour so she could feel safe. I pitied her, so I complied. I tell her if I was going to the grocery store. I thought I was helping her heal. Instead, I was feeding a monster of control. After we got married, she demanded a full schedule of my next day, every night. Once, I was in the bathroom 5 minutes longer than usual, and she checked the firm's security cameras to make sure I wasn't lying. Yet, she was a total hypocrite. She never told me where she was. If I asked, she'd accuse me of trying to control her life. I finished my drink in one go. It doesn't matter. We're divorced. The papers are signed. I don't owe her anything. Mike nearly fell off his chair. Finally, David, you're finally awake. I've hated her for years. Tonight, the drinks are on me. Let's toast to your freedom. As we clinked glasses, the door to the booth swung open. A cold, familiar voice cut through the music. Whose freedom are we celebrating? Catherine was standing there, her face a mask of fury. She ignored Mike and glared at the bottle on the table. David Miller, I told you to report your location every hour. Why didn't you? Are you hiding something? Is that why you're here with these people? I didn't even stand up. Does it matter who I'm with, Catherine? Why aren't you with your husband, Julian? I thought you two were busy singing. Catherine bristled. Don't be petty. I only took him to karaoke to help him save face with his parents. I was doing him a favor. I actually pushed all my work aside today to come home and cook your favorite dinner as an olive branch. I made the spicy fish head you love. And this is how you repay me? By being here. She slammed a thermos onto the table. I looked at the spicy dish and sighed and felt my stomach churn. It was the same every time. Whenever she wanted me to do a favor for Julian, she'd make this one dish. She didn't even care that since my surgery, I wasn't allowed to eat spicy food. She didn't care enough to learn a new apology move. I've already eaten, I said. Save the feast for Julian. Catherine didn't notice my coldness. She thought the favor of the food had worked. Fine. Anyway, I'm here because Julian's parents are coming over tomorrow. They want to see if I can take care of him, if I could be a good wife and mother. I remember you read all those books on childcare and prenatal care back then. Write me a cheat sheet. Tell me how to act like a perfect wife and mother, so I can impress them. I felt like I was going to vomit. Catherine knew exactly why I'd read those books. She had been pregnant once. I had studied everything to take care of her. Then she had a miscarriage, and we never spoke of it again. And now, she wanted me to use that knowledge to help her play house with another man. Catherine, I'm a lawyer, not your nanny. Ask someone else. Catherine's eyes widened. The fish head trick had always worked. She was about to scream when her phone rang. It was Julian. Without a word to me, she turned and ran out of the room to answer him. The next morning, I went back to our suburban house to pack the rest of my things. This house had been Catherine's gift to me, a place with a yard because she knew I loved gardening. But when I walked into the yard, I froze. My strawberry patch had been ripped out and trampled. The soil had been leveled to make room for a gaudy lawn swing. The peach tree I'd planted 2 years ago had been chopped down. It would stack for disposal. Even my orchids were gone, replaced by bright peonies. I confronted the workers. They told me it was Catherine's order. She was redecorating the entire property to suit Julian's tastes before his parents arrived. She was erasing every trace of me. I didn't argue. I went inside to finish packing. While digging through a closet, a small wooden box fell out. It was Catherine's most prized possession, the box she claimed held her late mother's heirlooms. She'd never let me touch it. It had a combination lock. The fall had broken a latch. I looked inside. There were no heirlooms. It was stuffed with photos of Catherine and a young man. In the park, at school, at the mall. On the back of the photos, in Catherine's handwriting, April 10, 2012, met a boy named Ryan. My heart is racing. Is this love? December 10, 2012. Ryan didn't come to school. They say he died in a car accident. I don't believe it. April 5, 2013. Ryan, wait for me. I'm going to become a lawyer and get you justice. I looked at the photos. Ryan had a face that looked hauntingly like mine, and hauntingly like Julian's. We were just placeholders. She wasn't building a life with me. She was chasing a ghost. I put the box back and walked out. There was nothing left for me here. Before my flight to London, Mike insisted on a final meal. On the way to the restaurant, I saw Catherine's car parked outside a photography studio. Inside, she was posing for a newlywed family portrait with Julian and his parents. They looked like a perfect family. In 7 years of marriage, she never took a single professional photo with me. She even refused to take a family photo when my mother was on her deathbed. My mother died with that one regret. I turned to leave, but Catherine caught my eye. She flinched, her hand dropping from Julian's shoulder. Julian saw me and put on his best victim face. He stepped outside, wiping fake tears. David, I know you hate me, but I'm just trying to live my life. You don't have to stalk us and try to tell my parents the truth, do you? Catherine marched out and grabbed my arm. David Miller, 7 years, and I'm just now realizing what a petty man you are. He's just a kid trying to save face. Do you really have to ruin his life? I looked at her, then looked at Julian. I stepped forward and slapped him across the face. Hard. I'm here for lunch with a friend, not for your drama. But if you keep lying about me, I'll make sure the whole world knows the truth. Julian whimpered, and Catherine's face went white with rage. You laid a hand on him? David, apologize right now, or I'll fire you and make sure you never work in this city again. I pulled my resignation and the divorce decree out of my pocket and slapped them against her chest. I already quit. And as for blackballing me, try your best, Catherine. She stared at the papers. Quit. David, I never approved your resignation. You're photoshopping documents now just to get a rise out of me. Julian chimed in, clinging to her arm. Boss, don't be mad. He's just jealous because we're taking family photos. He made a fake paper to scare you. Forging documents is a crime, David. Catherine's lip curled. Look at him, David. Julian is so much more mature than you. Since when did you become so desperate for attention? I felt a wave of exhaustion. This woman didn't know me at all. Last month, when the firm's books were off by $50, she investigated me for 3 days, accusing me of pocketing kickbacks from coffee runs. When it turned out to be a clerical error by the accountant, she didn't apologize. She just said, it's good to be rigorous. But when Julian faked $20,000 in travel expenses to buy a gaming rig, she laughed it off and paid the difference out of her own pocket. The signature is yours, Catherine. The HR portal says approved. Your brain might be failing you, but the paper trail doesn't lie. Stop, she yelled, grabbing my wrist. You hit Julian. You're not leaving until you apologize. I've been too soft on you. She pulled out her phone and called HR. Freeze David Miller's final paycheck and bonuses. Mark his termination as for cause due to professional misconduct and ethical violations. She looked at me, waiting for me to beg. Ms. Sterling, the HR rep said over the speaker, sounding confused. Mr. Miller's offboarding was completed yesterday. You approved it yourself on the system. Catherine froze. What? She fumbled with her phone, checking her history. Sure enough, yesterday, while she was busy posting karaoke photos, she had mindlessly clicked approve on a notification she thought was a leave request. He's a founding partner. Catherine screamed into the phone. Why wasn't I notified of a major partner leaving? You told the entire client group he was being fired, Ms. Sterling, the rep said quietly. We thought you'd already handled the details. That was for the clients. You should know the difference. You're fired. Get out. Catherine hung up, her chest heaving. She looked at me, her expression shifting to something resembling a plea. David, this is a misunderstanding. I was busy yesterday. I didn't mean to click that. The resignation is void. She tried to take my hand, her voice suddenly sweet. Remember what I promised your parents? That I'd take care of you forever? I could never really let you go. I stepped back, feeling a surge of nausea. Stop acting, Catherine. It's pathetic. Your promises are worth less than the paper Julian's degree is printed on. Julian sighed, playing the concerned friend. David, the job market is terrible. You're almost 30. If you leave Catherine, where will you go? You'll end up at some basement-tier firm doing paralegal work for pennies. Catherine regained her composure. Julian's right. Without a recommendation from me, no firm in Chicago will touch you. I'll make sure of it. When you come crawling back, the terms won't be this generous. I almost laughed. They really thought I was a parasite. My phone rang. I put on speaker. David, it's Helena Vance. Your paperwork is processed. We set your base at £3 million plus a partner draw. The team in London is dying to meet you. When can you fly out? The silence that followed was heavy. £3 million. More than I'd made in 7 years with Catherine. Catherine's eyes were wide. Helena Vance? The Helena Vance? How? How do you even know her? Julian's face was pale. It's a scam. David, don't fall for a phishing scam. Why would a top-tier London firm call a guy like you? I hung up and looked at them. Scam or not, it's none of your business. I turned to go, but Catherine blocked me again. David, I won't let you leave. If you walk away, I'll divorce you. And remember, I'm the best divorce lawyer in the state. You'll leave with nothing. I pulled the final judgment from my bag and dropped it at her feet. Catherine, look at the date. The judge signed it yesterday. We're already divorced. She didn't even look at it. She kicked it into the gutter. You're insane. Forging a court order now? Anything to get my attention, right? At that moment, Mike ran up to us, clutching a FedEx envelope. David, it's here. The expedited hard copies. Catherine snatched the envelope, a smirk on her face. Is this your fake offer? I'm going to shred it right now. She tore it open. It wasn't an offer. It was 2 red booklets, official divorce certificates. Her eyes scanned the stamps, the barcodes, the signatures. Her face went from red to ghostly white. David, you weren't kidding. Her voice was a whisper. Because I helped Julian with one wedding. You threw away 7 years? Just like that. I felt a cold laugh bubble up. Catherine, 7 years ago, you said we had to stay secret for your career. 3 years ago, you said you were too busy for ceremony. Last week, you finally agreed, and then you left me standing at the altar while you played wife to him. I pointed at Julian. Do you know what the guests said about me that night? The pity in their eyes. Catherine stammered, I know I messed up that day, but Julian's fiancée left. I had to help him. I wasn't going to let him be humiliated. Once the heat dies down, I'll give you your wedding. I'll make you a senior partner. I'll give you a raise. Save the lies for your clients, Catherine. I'm done eating them. As I turned to leave, Julian let out a strangled cry. Catherine, my chest. I can't breathe. He collapsed onto the pavement, clutching his heart. I looked at him, no sweat, no pale skin, just a bad acting job. Catherine froze. She looked at me, then looked at Julian. David, wait. It's an emergency. Let me just get him to the hospital, and I'll come right back to talk to you. She hoisted him up and hailed a cab. She didn't hesitate. I watched her get into the car. Catherine had a paralyzing phobia of cars. 10 years ago, she was in a crash that killed her mother. Since then, she wouldn't even sit in a taxi. We took the subway everywhere. I once had a 104-degree fever, and she made me walk to the ER because she couldn't get in a car. But for Julian's fake heart attack, she got in the cab without a second thought. Let's go, Mike, I said, turning my back on them for the last time. She was never mine to begin with. On the way to the airport, my phone buzzed. It was an MMS from an unknown number. It was a video of Catherine in a hospital hallway, frantic, grabbing a doctor's arm. Money is no object. Get him the best specialists. If anything happens to him, I'll sue this hospital into the ground. The video ended with a shot of Julian in a hospital bed, looking perfectly fine, winking at the camera with a smirk of victory. Below the video was a text. David, see? She's mine. 7 years meant nothing. I'm the one she chooses. Enjoy your flight. I reply, good. You two deserve each other. Just remember, a replacement is always a replacement. When she gets bored, I hope you can still smile. I blocked him and boarded the plane. 13 hours later, I landed in London. A black Rolls-Royce was waiting at the curb. A chauffeur took my bags. Mr. Miller? Ms. Vance has prepared your accommodations. I expected a corporate apartment. Instead, the driver took me to a massive penthouse overlooking the Thames. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed the London Eye and Tower Bridge. The rent on this must be insane, I muttered. Ms. Vance insists this is your perk as a partner, sir. She said you've earned it. I felt a lump in my throat. At Sterling & Associates, I won 1,000 cases, and all Catherine ever told me was how much the firm's mortgage cost and how I needed to work harder to earn our lifestyle. She made me feel like I was always in debt to her. This was the first time someone told me I was worth it. Helena called an hour later. Welcome to London, David. Want to start tomorrow? I'm ready now. I hit the ground running. In a month, I won 3 high-stakes international commercial suits. The Yankee Shark became my nickname in the London legal circles. My career was skyrocketing until the calls started. David, we're dropping you. We found another firm. Why? We're a week from trial, and we're winning. Our hands are tied. By the end of the day, 5 major clients had fired me. I cornered one of the CEOs as he left the courthouse. David, did you piss off someone powerful back in the States? He asked quietly. Word is out. Anyone who uses you gets their supply chain choked. Catherine Sterling is playing hardball. She's using every connection she has to bury you. I felt a surge of cold fury. She was actually trying to destroy my career to force me to crawl back. When I told Helena, she was ready to sue for tortious interference. I just smiled. Don't worry, Helena, I've got this. She's about to realize she played the wrong card. I called Catherine. She answered on the second ring, Julian's laughter in the background. Finally called? Running out of clients, David? I told you, Chicago or London, I can make you a ghost. Just come home, apologize, and I might let you be Julian's research assistant. I hung up. 5 minutes later, she called back, screaming, How dare you hang up on me? Catherine, stop the blackballing now, or the consequences will be yours to bear. Your firm is about to hit a wall. Lies. My firm is at its peak, she laughed. Fine, good luck. I hung up again. 3 days later, my phone rang. It was Catherine. She sounded like she was having a stroke. David, what did you do? Why is the Harrison Group suing us for $300 million? They're alleging breach of contract. All our other clients are jumping ship because of it. I leaned back in my chair, looking at the London skyline. Mr. Harrison, you forgot, didn't you? When I brought in the Harrison account 3 months ago, I added a rider to the retainer. What rider? She gasped. The Miller Clause. It states that given David Miller's unique expertise, all Harrison Group matters must be lead managed by me personally. If the firm replaces the lead attorney without my consent, it's an automatic breach with a 10x penalty. I didn't see that. Julian handled the filing. Right. Because you were too busy buying Julian emergency gourmet snacks to read the fine print. You gave the file to a guy who doesn't know a tort from a tart. Julian's voice screamed in the background. He's lying. He's trying to trick us. Shut up, Julian. Catherine screamed back. Bring me the file. A minute later, I heard the sound of papers hitting the floor. It's there. Oh God, it's actually there. David, please, she sobbed. I'll lift the black ball. I'll tell everyone you're a genius. Just call Mr. Harrison. Tell him you're still affiliated. If I lose $300 million, the firm is dead. Sorry, Catherine. I'm just a bitter old lawyer who isn't fit to work. Remember? Let your true love Julian handle it. He's so much more mature than me. I hung up. Mr. Harrison texted me seconds later. She's panicking. Nobody's going to touch you now, David. You're my guy for life. Sterling and Associates was circling the drain. Catherine was learning the hard way that a firm is built on talent, not ego. Catherine sat in her office, staring out at the Chicago skyline. She tried to convince herself she could save the firm. I'm still Catherine Sterling. I can rebuild, she whispered. She grabbed a pile of documents, trying to drown her anxiety in work. She habitually reached out her hand to the right. David, where's the risk assessment for this merger? Her hand hit empty wood. The silence of the office was deafening. Usually, at this hour, a hot cup of black coffee would appear, followed by a highlighted brief. Now, there was only dust on David's old desk. She slammed her pen down. I don't need him. She called the front desk. Send Julian in. Julian entered, wearing a designer puffer jacket that cost $5,000. Boss, why are you so stressed? Julian, finish the risk assessment for the merger. I need it in 30 minutes. An hour later, a junior associate brought in a mess of papers. Catherine looked at them and screamed. This is garbage. The data is wrong. The statutes are outdated. Are you an idiot? The associate trembled. I'm looking like he was about to cry. Catherine, my parents are mad. They say if I don't bring my wife home to see them, they'll disown me. They're so conservative, they'll kill me. Catherine looked at him. Suddenly, the dying routine felt thin. Julian, the firm is falling apart. I don't have time for this. So work is more important than my life? He sobbed. Fine, I'll just go home and let them kill me. She sighed. Fine, one last time. The next day, she drove to Julian's hometown. Along the way, he warned her about how violent and traditional his parents were. But when she walked into the house, she saw a luxury suburban home with a PS5 in the living room. Julian's parents were wearing trendy clothes and greeted her with smiles. Oh, Catherine, you're the big lawyer. Julian is so lucky. They weren't conservative. They weren't violent. They were doting parents who clearly spoiled their son. There was no disowning. There was no fiancé scandal. It was all a lie. Catherine stood on the sidewalk outside Julian's parents' house, the cold Chicago wind biting at her face. She turned to Julian, her voice like ice. Why did you lie? Julian stammered. I just wanted you to come home with me. I wanted to show you off. Catherine realized the magnitude of her stupidity. For this boy's fake drama, she had destroyed her marriage to the only man who ever truly cared for her. She drove back to Chicago, ignored Julian's calls, and hired a private investigator. 3 hours later, the report arrived. Julian Thorne's law degree was from a diploma mill. His internships were fabricated. And most importantly, he had been the one sabotaging David at the firm, deleting files, and altering emails to make David look incompetent. Catherine threw up in her office trash can. She had helped a parasite eat her life. She looked at her medical records. She'd been having heart palpitations lately. She habitually reached for her medicine drawer. It was empty. David used to refill her prescriptions every month without being asked. She rushed to the ER. While waiting for a prescription, she heard a voice in a nearby consulting room. Doctor, please. I'll give you $5,000 just to write a report saying I have stage 4 cancer. It was Julian. Sir, get out. I won't fake a medical record so you can guilt your girlfriend, the doctor yelled. Catherine walked away, laughing through her tears. She called the police. I'd like to report a case of corporate fraud, embezzlement, and forgery. The suspect is Julian Thorne. Julian was arrested at a KTV bar, surrounded by friends who vanished the moment the handcuffs came out. Catherine watched him get hauled away, then went straight to the airport. She didn't care about her phobia. She didn't care about her firm. She just needed David. She found him in London, outside his new office. He looked younger, happier. "David," she cried, rushing to him. "I know everything. I sent Julian to jail. I was wrong. Please come home. I'll give you everything. You can run the firm." David didn't even stop walking. "So, if Julian hadn't been a fraud, you'd still be with him? If his fiancée had been real, you'd still be playing house?" Catherine froze. "I'm not a backup plan, Catherine. And I'm not a ghost." He pulled up a photo on his phone. It was the photo of Ryan from her secret box. "Is this why you picked me? Because I look like a dead boy from your high school?" Catherine gasped. He was just a memory." "No, he was the reason you never saw me. You were never in love with David Miller. You were in love with a tragedy. If you ever follow me again, I'm calling the police. Goodbye, Catherine." He walked into his office. Catherine knelt on the London pavement, sobbing, holding a wedding ring he would never wear. 3 years later, David Miller is the head of one of the most successful firms in Europe. He's a regular on the news, a champion for justice. Catherine Sterling? She's in a federal prison in Illinois. After the Harrison lawsuit broke her, she tried to cover her losses by laundering money for a shady developer. Julian, seeking a reduced sentence, turned state's evidence against her. She spent her days in a gray cell, finally having all the time she said she needed. David, meanwhile, stands on a balcony in London, watching the sunset with Helena. For the first time in his life, he isn't anyone's replacement. He's just David, and that is enough. Story complete.